Alright, in this lesson I'll introduce operators, which are basically just symbols that we can use to perform operations. So the most familiar ones to us will be things like the mathematical operators for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So let's dive into those very quickly. We have the plus sign, which is used for addition. So 1 plus 1 is going to give us 2. We have the minus sign for subtraction. So 10 minus 5 is going to give us 5. We have the asterisk for multiplication. So 5 times 3 with the asterisk is going to give us 15. And finally, the forward slash is the division. So if I have 10 divided by 5, that's going to give us 2. Now, in addition to those mathematical operators, we have some additional ones that are worth noting. We have the comparison operator, which is the double equal sign. So the comparison operator returns a Boolean, either true or false, depending on whether the two things that are being compared are identical or equal or not. So for example, if I do 1 equals 1, it's going to return true if those two are equal. So if I execute this, I am going to get a Boolean true because 1 is equal to 1. If I replace this with something like a 2, I'm going to get a false because 1 in this case is not equal to 2. So it is false that 1 is equal to 2, which is what the condition is that I'm checking here. We also have the non-comparison operator, or the unequal comparison. So if I want to check whether it's true that two values are unequal, for example, if I want to check if 5 is not equal to 10, I replace the first equal sign with the exclamation point. So this means not equal to. So when I execute this, I'm going to get true because it is true that 5 is not equal to 10. If I replace this with 5, so now I have equal values on both sides, I'm going to get false because it is false that 5 is not equal to 5. It is equal to 5, so that's going to return false. And this same operation applies to strings. If I want to check if two strings are identical, I can just use the double equal sign. Is Boris equal to Boris? Yes, it is. And keep in mind that this is going to be case sensitive. So if I simply offer a lowercase b in this example where I'm comparing my name, this is going to return false because it's going to check directly both the casing and each character. So in this case, when you have a different casing, it's going to return false because these two string values are not equal. Let's do a couple more. We have, of course, less than and greater than. So if I do something like 8 is less than 10, that's going to give me true. If I have 8 is less than 5, that's going to evaluate to false. We also have less than or equal to. That's just done by placing an extra equal sign after the less than sign. 8 is less than or equal to 10. That is true. 8 is less than or equal to 8. That is true as well. 8 is less than or equal to 2. That is false. And similarly, we have greater than. For example, 10 is greater than 4. Or let's do 3. Mistyped. Yes, it is true that 10 is greater than 3. However, 10 is greater than 1,000. That is false. And similarly, we have the equivalent greater than or equal to sign, which is just the greater than sign followed by the equal sign. 10 is greater than or equal to 10. That is true. 10 is greater than or equal to negative 25. That is true as well. 10 is greater than or equal to 15. That is false. So these are hopefully very, very familiar operators to you, but they're going to certainly come into use whenever we start diving into performing comparison operations in Pandas. Right here, we did pretty simple examples where we were comparing essentially two values. In Pandas, I'll be taking you through the process of doing something like comparing every value within a column of data, and we can be dealing with something like 1,000,000 rows, comparing every single one of those values to an arbitrary number or an arbitrary string. So being familiar with how these operators work is definitely critical to understanding Pandas. So I wanted to offer this quick review. If this is all familiar and super easy and kindergarten stuff, then you are by all means just about ready to start diving into Pandas. Again, if this is new, just make sure to review these Python concepts before you dive into the rest of the course.